We're fighting a battle, we're singing the same song, trying to find someone who cares as much as we do. We're climbing the ladder, while we're sinking in this boat, trying to find someone who cares.
Okay, we're back again with Babble, Scribbler, the strange podcast-ish show, and today I am here with Gombasa, who is a long-time collaborator and even longer-time friend, and I worked with him many times, and he has decided to come in today and give his opinions on FlashSentry, and with a sort of kick-offer, that's bad grammar, a kick-off of Flashback, which is a story by Shortskirtsandexplosions, more famous for writing Background Pony. It would help if I got my verbs right. And Goombasa did a reading of this on his channel, and I'm going to leave him to explain himself and the story.
Thank you, Bob Scribbler, and thank you so much for having me on here. By the way, when are you going to finish Background Pony?
Shut up.
I'm sorry, I could not resist. But, yes.
I feel fine when you're asleep.
Well, I'll sleep with one eye open then. So this story, Flashback, by Shortskirtsandexplosions, I did do a reading of it, and Scribbler actually recommended it to me because I have done many stories for her where I played FlashSentry, but she noticed that I did not have any FlashSentry stories on my channel. So she gave me this one to read, and I really liked it. It is a first-person story about FlashSentry, who goes through the mirror when he's not supposed to, specifically
the mirror at the Crystal Empire.
The mirror at the Crystal Empire.
Mirror.
Yes. And he goes out in search of a young boy named, I believe, Dreamy Days is his name. And we learn that Dreamy Days is FlashSentry's brother. And as the story goes on, we learn that the FlashSentry from Equestria lost his brother to Griffin Raiders when he was just a child. But in the Equestria Girls universe, Dreamy Days is still alive and well.
Right, so this... You're right, you don't have a lot of FlashSentry fiction on your channel. That's got to be rectified at some point. You have to fix that. But I think part of that might be to do with the fact that there's not much FlashSentry fiction out there, so finding this one was a bit of a gem. The fact it's by Shortskirtsandexplosions kind of just was the icing on top of a very nice cake.
Yep, Shortskirtsandexplosions does some very nice writings, and I've done a few of his, at least one of his other ones. I believe I did.
The dresses from...
Yes. I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly what it's called, though.
I just know that it had a picture of Rainbow Dash in a dress on the front and Applejack looking slightly disturbed. And at that point I hadn't seen the episode that was based off of, so I listened to it and sort of went, I don't get it.
Yeah,
and it very much
basically,
was that.
It is based around a single scene from Inspiration Manifestation back in Season 4.
Back in Season 4. Oh god, how far we have come.
Oh, I feel old.
Shut up, you. There's not much FlashSentry fic out there. So, with this one, I must admit, when I gave you that one, my basic knowledge of it was that it was FlashSentry, and it was Shortskirtsandexplosions, and it was first person, and thus ended my knowledge of it. So, like, I had completely forgotten until you said just now that I'd given it to you. Because I came into this podcast thinking, wow, he picked a really good fic. Apparently,
no,
yeah.
that was all you, actually. And the thing about it is, the way that I go about choosing my fiction is that I just basically browse whatever is new or popular on FimFiction, and I try my best to...
That's how we both ended up doing the same fiction.
Yeah, pretty much, yes. Though I tend to avoid anything that's in the feature box nowadays.
Well, that's because it's all plop.
Yeah. Every once in a while I do find a gem in there, but it's very rare. But, yeah, this story actually did not come to my attention until you showed it to me, and like you said, just browsing through like the new stuff that comes through FimFiction's front page, I don't see a lot of stuff focusing on FlashSentry.
No, I think there's only been three authors who I've seen write him, and one of them was Blueshift, and he was writing him as a bit of an arse. So But the two others who've written him quite sympathetically and given him, gasp, a personality, were Shortskirtsandexplosions and DGD Davidson, whose name I still can't say. And you played FlashSentry in that fiction as well, the To My Princess on the Eve of My Departure.
Yeah. The other one that I can think of is The Order, which was Bad Seed
72.
Thank you. Yes. And he's also writing a fantastic sequel to it that's still ongoing as well.
See, I haven't read the sequel. I've got, I've had that one recorded forever, and I couldn't bring it out because BlackIrisBalloon put out his version and it was really good, and now I have to sit on it for another year! I have to wait for everybody to forget how good that one was. A link in the Dooblydoo for everybody listening, so go to the prescription? No, not prescription, to the description.
Yes.
Words, what are words? Scribbler
We're going to need
English.
a prescription by the end of this, I'm sure.
Link to BlackIrisBalloon's radio production of The Order.
Is real good.
It is a very good interpretation of it. And yeah, that I'd forgotten about that one. I'm not sure anymore, because I've read Shortskirts and Explosions. It's really hard to keep saying that name. And DGD Davidson's stuff. I don't think The Order's as good as it used to be in my estimation. Like, I used to really, really like it. And now I kind of like it, because I think the other stuff's kind of a bit better in terms of characterization for Flash.
Oh, there was one other one that I really want to bring up, because it's great because it was a comedy that was written, I think, right after EQG came out. And it basically played off the fact that in canon, Flash has very little personality. It was called, I believe it was called Twilight Sparkle Gets a Divorce.
That's Blueshift, that's the one I was thinking of.
Okay, yes, so, yeah.
Yeah,
Then
and that
you-
one
you
is
know
it's
all about that
really,
one. It's
really funny. Yeah, go and read that
fantastic
one if you
comedy.
want some fun. We've gone off on a tangent already. God, we didn't even manage to get into the fic before we started going off on a tangent.
Oh, who cares? This is fun. Let's keep rolling.
Well, I have to say that of all the different interpretations of Flash, the one in Flashback is probably my favourite. Like, I really liked him in DGC, Mr. Davidson's stuff. It's hard to say that name with an overbite and a posh accent, even though I'm only semi-posh.
I can understand that, yeah.
But yeah, I really like the Flashback version of FlashSentry. That the writing style itself, the idea of entering the story in media res, so when the action's already going on, and having to work out why Flash was there and what he was doing, and the fact that the fic managed to keep the reader in suspense right up until the moment that it was the end of the first chapter. I really like that. I've always liked that kind of storytelling. But the fact that throughout this, it wasn't just that narrative trick that kept me interested. It was also because Flash himself was written quite compellingly. He had not only a personality, but he had a balanced personality. He wasn't just, a wooby-woo crying, wow, my brother's dead.
I think one of the reasons why that works so well in this case is because it was written in first person. We are constantly in Flash's head, and so he is describing everything he is thinking and feeling and seeing to us. So we have a very, very good idea about his thought processes as the story goes on.
Yeah, and I would say that writing in first person just in general is really hard. Like, people kind of assume that writing in first person is easier because you are writing just basically from your own perspective, but pretending to be a character, which is the worst thing you can possibly do if you write in first person. I find first person the hardest.
I've met people who write in first person specifically because they believe that it's a good way to get around the show don't tell argument for writing, because they believe that if you're writing in first person, well, you're writing down everything that person is thinking, so therefore you have an excuse to just write out exposition, because that person would know what is going on, and so they just have them think the exposition, and they somehow think that makes it okay.
Shoot me now. No, it usually really bugs me when I find first-person narration. Even when I'm just reading for pleasure, unless it's incredibly well written, and unless the character... This is going to sound weird, but unless the character who's speaking is deeply flawed, I find it boring.
Right.
Because I keep feeling like the author is being themselves and trying to justify their own perceptions of themselves, because they've taken on board the persona of the character. They've been trying to take on board the persona of the character, but instead the character has taken on board their persona. And because of that, they can't separate themselves from the character. And so anything bad anyone thinks about the character is thinking about them, so they can't possibly have anybody think anything bad, so their character is going to be awesome and epic and wonderful and super special awesome all the fucking time!
And then you get into the whole Mary Stu and Gary Stu family.
Mary Stu? Ooh, gosh, we've got a... I think we're going into
You've never heard of Gary Stu?
I know I've heard of Gary Stu, it's Mary Stu I'd not heard of.
Oh, sorry, that was a slip of the tongue, yes. But at that
interesting
point...
mental image then, a Gary Stu in a skirt.
At that point, my favorite way to describe a character like that is I always just change their name from whatever their name is to Pants, because that's what they are. They are a pair of pants for the reader to slide on and walk around in the story.
I think I've been spoiled, to be honest. Because some of my favourite published authors write in first person. And, like I said, usually it would really bug me, but... like, have you ever heard of an author called Ilona Andrews? Or Karen Chance?
I have heard of Karen Chance, but not Andrews, no.
Ilona Andrews is actually a husband and wife team who write, and they write something called the Kate Daniels series, and they write that entirely in first person. And it's really impressive because it's two of them writing, the same character, and it's meant to be, all the same character's point of view. It took me 2 years to work out that there were two people writing this. The one of them's called Ilona, and one of them is called something Andrews. So yeah, I didn't get that it was two people, because Kate Daniels is such a compelling character that she's wonderful to... It is wonderful to read from her perspective, because basically she hates mostly everything, and she's really witty about it, but by the same token, people call her on the fact that she hates everything. She's not just the cool character who riffs on things and is really witty and cool and badass and wears a leather jacket and has a sword, and yeah, she's those things as well, but she's really fucked up, and she's believably fucked up, and people do call her on her bullshit. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, it justifies the first-person perspective, because when the other characters call her on her behaviour, we're seeing it from her point of view, and she genuinely hasn't figured out the fact that she is being a knob. So when they call her on it, it's like, you can see the character's thought processes of she has to come to that understanding of, yeah, actually, her behaviour needs to change in this aspect, otherwise, it's a supernatural, urban supernatural? Oh, whatever. It's fantasy.
Urban fantasy.
That would be the words. Read a can of English today. But yeah, I've forgotten the point now. No, it's gone. It's gone. So yeah, it's really well written. Because okay, that's it. The nature of her character justifies the first person and made me forget it was first person, even though I hate first person.
Do you think that this story manages to accomplish the same thing with FlashSentry?
I do. That's one of the reasons that I really, really like this interpretation of Flash, is that he didn't feel fake or forced. He felt real. Mm-hmm. And the fact that... Another thing, the structure of the story, the fact that we didn't find out why he was in the human world for a while, that suited first person as well, because of course if you write in first person, you're not going to need to have the exposition. You know why you're there. You've got no one else you're going to tell.
Yeah, it's not like he's writing this down for future generations to experience. No.
Yeah, it's not a diary thing.
It is all in his head, and he knows what he's doing, so there's no point in telling the audience.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people who write first person could take note of that, because it's an important thing. Why would your character need to tell their entire backstory to themselves? Maybe the great and powerful Trixie would do that every so often to remind herself how wonderful she is, but not the other characters.
And even then, with Trixie, you would have to pull it off really, really carefully to keep people from getting annoyed at that particular quirk.
Yeah, and that's a whole different rant, is how Trixie's written in fiction. I'll have to have it back sometime so we can talk about Trixie fic.
I would love to do that.
Oh god, Trixie. We're looking at the other, much maligned character. Trixie is beloved. FlashSentry is maligned. So why do you think it is so difficult to find well-written FlashSentry fanfiction then? Why is this one such a gem?
I think it has I think it mostly has to do with the fact that he did not leave much of an impression when he appeared in Equestria Girls and Equestria Girls 2 Electric Boogaloo. But it's difficult for me to really think of why he didn't, compared to the multitude of other characters that have no personality, that show up in the background, that the fandom has just latched onto and created so much lore about. Like, you look at Vinyl Scratch, and there's so much about Vinyl Scratch that the fandom has created on their own. Back when she had less than 20 seconds of screen time to her name.
Mm-hmm. Maybe that was the reason, though, that Vinyl Scratch was a throwaway character. She was literally background decoration. That her original puppet didn't even have legs. So the fandom could do what it wanted. They could go wild. And this fandom has shown that it is incredibly creative and very imaginative. And they like making up stuff. So Vinyl Scratch and Octavia, with their tiny amount of screen time, people really could do what they wanted with their personalities. Whereas Flash, he was posed as being quite important. Like, he didn't turn out to be, but the way he was framed by the story in the first Equestria Girls movie made it seem like he was going to be important. And so he sort of had a place where his personality should have been. Whereas the others, they were never intended to have them, so of course people could fill in the blanks. It's harder to fill in the blanks when what's on screen would immediately contradict any personality you place in that gap.
Yes, this was back when FlashSentry was known as Brad by the fandom.
Gummy.
Yeah, I remember that comic. That was great, too.
Still one of my favourites. But, yeah. And I think before the film came out, he had more personality in people's stories than after it did.
Yeah, all the speculation that was surrounding him, because that's another thing that this fandom really likes to do, is they take the little teases and tidbits that DHX throws at them, and they will speculate the hell out of them.
Oh yeah.
And try to create the entire season arc
based
from just
purely
like
on
the little
episode
screenshots.
Titles. Yeah.
Yes.
I was listening back yesterday. I was walking Suki and I was listening to old heroic reviews. Oops, excuse me. This is becoming a theme in these podcasts. Suddenly Scribbler burps. I was listening to one for Princess Twilight Sparkle. And all this... You lot were doing it too, because I wasn't in that review. And I was listening to going, you're speculating like crazy, and you've got like 2 things you could possibly talk about. And you talk for 25 minutes about them. So yeah, speculating based on tiny little tidbits that the show gives you. Yeah, you're good at that too. But yeah,
I think. Oh, sorry.
No,
go ahead.
Go on.
The other reason why I think that Flash said. Now I'm. Oh goodness.
You're reverting to when he was more interesting.
Yes. Oh no. But I think another reason why FlashSentry was so maligned was that he was also presented as a potential love interest for Twilight. And boy, we know how fans can get when they just ship characters on their own. When the show staff is dropping hints. Oh boy.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah. Oh,
I mean, he basically became a meme for a while after the first. The
waifu stealer.
Yeah, waifu stealer was basically what he was called after the movie premiered.
I remember hearing somebody. I can't remember who it was now. It might have been on Doompie Network. Hearing somebody read a story called FlashSentry Waifu Stealer, where Celestia and Luna beat the shit out of FlashSentry for trying to date Twilight. How dare you take our Twilight from us! So yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing that keeps happening.
But that is something I think people blew it out of proportion. But
This
I
fandom
personally
blowing things out of proportion? How dare you? That's never happened before and will never happen again. I demand you apologise.
Shocker of shockers. And no, I will not. But yes, the fandom blew that out of proportion. But I do think it is a legitimate complaint because I don't mind shipping in fanon, not at all. In fact, I love shipping, honestly. It leads to some great
I wouldn't have guessed that
ideas.
from the fact that you released a romance fic every single day of February.
Yes, just like that. But when it comes to canon, I have a very hard time viewing any of the main six in any sort of committed relationship, and the fact that Twilight was shown to be crushing so hard on FlashSentry, both in the first movie and in the second movie, where he really had nothing to do. He was more useless in the second movie than he was in the first, honestly. It bothers me that Twilight, of all ponies, would show sort of like romantic inclinations to a guy that she literally just bumps into. That's the entire shtick with them, is that they keep bumping into each other.
Into cutie. Although with ponies that would mean meeting bum to bum. That part of this might have come from the fact that Equestria Girls was originally posed as being something that was aimed at an older audience. Sort of, rather than 6-year-olds like the actual show, it was more sort of pre-teens and early teens. So this romance element may have been introduced if the show producers thought, oh, romance subplot, that's a thing that girls like at that age, isn't it? But they're not very good at writing romance. That said, the cakes. The cakes are very well written as being an established married couple. I love the cakes.
Definitely, yes. And Silver Quill did a fantastic video on them for Valentine's Day. Yes.
Yes. Again, link in the Dooblydoo. Go and watch Silver... Not before you finished here, but...
Yes, please. Please,
let
listen
us
to our
continue.
voices.
Yes.
We have a point, I swear.
It's in here somewhere. We're surrounded by hay. It's some kind of stack, but there's a point in here somewhere.
I will say, though, that would be another good topic to discuss another day, would be the established relationships that we have seen on the show, like the cakes.
Who else has been established on the show? I can't think of any.
Cadence and Shining Armor, and that's about it.
And
even then, that's a good point of comparison.
Yeah,
Yes.
We also have characters there who have no personality, but the fandom seems to have liked them. Don't they? Fandom does like them, doesn't it?
I think so, yes.
But yeah, it's not to the point where...
If for nothing else, the fact that Shining Armor uses his wife as a javelin, so...
That's amazing. I still love that. Still love it. Ah, yes. Now you brought that up, that scene does in fact justify the entire existence of those two characters. FlashSentry does not have an equivalent scene, not even dancing on all fours.
No.
Or the fact that he was there to bring some pretty sweet guitar riffs into a song.
Yep.
We need to give a character a guitar. Go give it to the boring one.
His entire character in the first movie was he was basically there to be the nice guy to Twilight and to bail her out during a scene where
when Luna was being an utter retard.
Yes. Oh, Luna, please forgive us for disparaging your name.
Well, Luna, Pony Luna, still, she retains her niceness.
That is true.
Human Luna? Not so much. She's riding the special bus.
That is something that, going back to the fic for a second, that is something that I also really admire about this story, that a lot of people who try to write fiction about the Equestria Girls universe forget, is that the two universes, apart from names and characters sharing similarities, they're not exact mirror universes. There was no equivalent of Nightmare Moon in Equestria Girls. There was
Luna went through a goth phase when she was at university.
That is actually a pretty big fanon idea, actually.
Somebody should write that. That's literally just occurred to me, but someone should write that.
Yeah, probably. But my point is that the two universes are not exactly the same, and that's shown very well in this fiction with FlashSentry's younger brother being dead in his universe and being alive in this parallel universe where there are no Griffin Raiders. True.
And yet we still have this idea of Flash loving his brother. That stays true throughout, because we have that wonderful scene where the real Flash turns up and pretty much almost crashes his beautiful car to leap out and come and beat up his doppelganger. And he knows.
Yes.
I love the fact that he knows. He knows it's Pony Flash. And he's angry. He doesn't act surprised. He doesn't act like, oh my god, there's another one of you. He just sort of narrows his eyes and goes, I'm paraphrasing here, fuck off back to your own universe and don't ever come near my brother again.
Yep, and he tells Pony Flash to let Princess Twilight know that he doesn't want this shit happening anymore.
I mean, I liked that. In that few lines, the Equestria Girls universe Flash got a personality.
I know.
Suddenly he was someone who was short-tempered and loved his brother. And because he had this gap where his personality should be, that's entirely possible. That could be part of his personality. I mean, characters are not stereotypes. He could have multi-layers. He is a nice guy when it comes to pretty girls and very stupid vice principals. But he is also got a short fuse when it comes to people threatening his family.
I would like to see that in Equestria Girls 3. DHX, make it happen.
Yes, DHX, if you were listening to us in our strange little ignorable podcast thing on a fanfiction read, they're not going to listen to this.
No, probably not. Though, I would like to see that somewhere in the third movie, because they've already confirmed that EQG3 is going to have ATVs in it somewhere, so
ATVs?
I think that they... Yeah, all-terrain vehicles, basically.
Oh, right. We don't have that in the UK. If we do, we call them something else. Fucking stupid thing taking out the traffic, probably.
I mean, my god, the Equestria Girls universe is just turning into Mighty Morphin Power Rangers at this point.
Yes! Are they all going to start going skydiving and then kick the bad guy in the balls?
Oh my god, somebody should write a fanfic about that. Where the main 6 in Equestria Girls universe are Power Rangers.
And they each have a bot, and it all looks like ponies. And it comes up to make a giant pony that just turns around and apple bucks villains in the face.
Yes. Oh my god.
Yes, somebody make this happen.
You see, this is what discussing FlashSentry does. Since he doesn't have much of a personality and he's very boring, we are tempted to talk about more interesting things.
Yeah, we are. Although we filled over 20 minutes talking about this, so clearly he does have enough about him to justify a long-winded discussion.
Yes.
You may have to take this from here because I'm clearly losing the power of speech.
No, we could always try a different language. Parlez-vous français? Sprechen Sie Deutsch?
I was made to learn Latin and Russian in school, neither of which are particularly useful in everyday life.
I can imagine.
Although I missed out, the couple of year groups after me, they were allowed to learn Japanese and Mandarin. I would love to have learned them, but no, I got fucking Latin. Ooh.
We apologize to any Russians who are listening to this right now.
Yeah, I wish I could speak your language. It's a beautiful language, but I can't even speak English right. Let alone a language that seems to be made up entirely of consonant sounds.
Oh, if we still have time for more discussion about the story itself, what do you think about Dreamy Days as a child character? Because granted, we do get a bit of a skewed view of it because we are seeing him through Flash's eyes, so it might be a little bit idealized, but I do think that he was written well as a child, I think. He kind of reminded me a little bit of a male Scootaloo. See,
I think he was a bit bland. But then again, I think that of most people who are trying to write original child characters. Mm-hmm. It's really, really, really hard to write convincing children. And a lot of professional writers don't get this either. Script writers for films. If they ever write a child using the word angel, and they're not referring to a rabbit, they need to be shot. Just taken out behind the cowshed and put out of their misery, because clearly they just can't do the job anymore.
Oh, boy.
But yeah, I think writing child characters is more difficult than writing first person, because it's too easy to be trite, and it's too easy to fall into comfortable cliches of what movie children sound like. Because real children are horrible. Real children talk about horrible things.
Real children are South Park children.
Sadly, yes. They swear and think it's funny. And they'll say dirty words because, oh my god, we're not supposed to say this, so let's just keep saying it. Knicker elastic. Yeah, but they will. they'll say rude words that they have no concept of what they mean. Because they're rude words, they're not supposed to say them. That's why playground rhymes exist. That's why they can change the words to Teddy Bear's Picnic to something rude, and that was the version I learned in school and went home and sang and got into a lot of trouble about.
Right.
Yeah, but we're not going to use that. So, yeah, I think Dreamy Days, to me, he worked as a concept, but I think he was probably the weakest part of the fiction. So everybody's entitled to their opinion. That I found him a bit bland because he was idealized.
I do agree that like I said, I think he was idealized because we were seeing him through Flash's eyes.
Exactly.
And the way that Flash talks about him in his thoughts made it very, very clear that he was in the heat of the moment. It was a very, very emotional, a very emotional reunion for him.
Yeah, and I think that worked really well for his character. And this is where the first-person narrative kind of fell down a bit, is that because we saw Dreamy Days from his perspective, it was always going to be that Dreamy Days was kind of perfect. Because he wasn't going to acknowledge any bad parts of his personality, because he couldn't, because that would be totally against his character. He's not going to be that self-aware at that stage, with that kind of time frame. So what works for FlashSentry doesn't work for Dreamy Days.
Right.
Well, that's just my opinion.
It's certainly a valid one. You're far more eloquent about it than any YouTube comment I've ever seen.
Yeah, because YouTube comments... Well, actually, no, I can't say that, because the majority of the comments on my channel tend to be quite eloquent and at least coherent. And even when people tell me to fuck off and die, they've at least spelled it right.
I shouldn't laugh at that. That's terrible.
You're a terrible, terrible person.
But we knew that already.
I don't know, of all the fanfic readers in the community, you're one of the nice ones. You don't kill ponies nearly as often as the rest of us.
Oh, that is true.
Yeah.
Actually, I can't recall the last time I read a story where somebody outright got killed.
That's a good point. Have you ever read a story where somebody got killed?
Maybe I have. I don't know. I'm at that point where I've read so many stories, I kind of forget.
Pre-month of Lurid, you probably would have known this.
Yeah, probably.
Actually, no, you did. The very first one you did for Month of Lure, Derpy was dead. Spoilers.
Right, yes, okay. But no, she wasn't dead, but that's whole Doctor Who wibbly-wobbly timey-wimey stuff.
True.
Yes.
Oh, that means that doesn't work. Fighting Scars, they're all still alive.
Yes, and we again, for anybody who's listening to this, it was actually pretty funny now. But I felt bad about it when I put that story up, because Scribbler had already planned to do a reading of it.
Scribbler had already recorded it.
Yes, he had
got
it
all the VAs in.
all recorded and all set, and then here comes good old Goombasa putting up his version first, because he's an ass.
And what else did we find out when we both said, haha, isn't this funny? And we told the lost narrator? What did she say?
She said she was doing it too.
Yes. And you know what I found out fairly recently? When I was looking on Voice Acting Alliance? Somebody else is doing a full cast version as well.
Oh my god, that's
one of the other VAs that I work with.
Popular story.
Yeah, it is. It's Travelling Arrow, who was Discord in An Apple a Day. He was doing a version of it as well. I was like listening to this and going, holy shit, this one story that's not even 4,000 words long has got 4 different people, and there's probably others besides us who wanted to do it. So, yeah, this one little story is just so insanely popular with fic readers, apparently. Clearly it's the Apple Dash.
Yes.
Rare Jack Shipper.
So thank you all for tuning in to our review of Fighting Scars featuring FlashSentry.
And every single fanfic reader in the community.
Oh my
Quill and
God.
Astro Brony and Wooten and Def Funk and Ilya are going to have to do versions of it now.
Yep. That will be our mark on the community. We'll all do our own versions of this fic, and we'll see what happens.
It'll turn into My Little Dashie or Cupcakes, because everybody's done those.
Oh, don't remind me.
I'm still washing the taste of My Little Dashie out of my mouth from the first podcast.
I am so sorry.
So, yeah, what was our point again? Did we have a point?
Flashback is better than My Little Dashie.
Oh, that's a given. Bilge water that I clean out of the toilet when it backs up is better than My Little Dashie.
In fact, this might be one of the best FlashSentry stories. One of the few ones that I've seen.
Yeah. I would say that
like, the only
To My
other
Princess
ones
is quite good. Is that I like the fact that in To My Princess, it again acknowledges the fact that FlashSentry of Equestria Girls Universe and FlashSentry of Equestria are different characters, and he specifically says that he,
I also like the
Pony
fact that
Flash,
it
has been in
takes,
love with Twilight for all this time, and she can't comprehend this because she got to know human Flash, not Pony Flash.
I do like the fact that it also uses comic canon as well as part of its story, rather gruesomely, by the way.
Yeah, but we're not going to spoil that one because we want people to go and listen to it, don't we?
Yeah, please listen to it, because it's good, despite the fact that was the first time I played Flash for you.
Yeah, that
And,
was like summer 2013, wasn't it?
Yep, and like most of my early work, I am very critical of it.
I do remember. I remember the very first thing you ever recorded for me. What was it? Was Princess Luna, I Love You.
Right, yes.
That one fic that got taken down. It's still on Mediafire on the portfolio, everybody. Go and download that one and listen to Goombasa's very first fic that he did with me.
That was the one that got taken down? I thought it was the one where I played Fancy Pants that got taken down.
No, that was the one that nearly got my channel shut down.
Oh, right.
Yeah, clearly, hang on. You're a bad luck charm, you are. You appear in fics and they either get shut down or my channel nearly goes. Fuck off, I can't have you on my channel anymore. This podcast is never getting uploaded.
No, it's not me that's the bad luck. It's ponies that are lying under a sheet that are bad luck.
But yeah.
Memories.
Yeah, memories. I can actually remember that very first recording of yours. I was sitting in Wales in the middle of a pouring rainstorm in a little coach house that we'd rented, and I sat there with my laptop on my knee till 2 a.m. editing that.
Really?
Yep, well, there was fuck all else to do. Stare at the dog as she laid there and farted.
Well, when I hear that story, the only thing I can think of is, why would you ever go to Wales?
Wales is lovely when it's not pouring down with rain. The problem is that it's pouring down with rain 95% of the time. Or you just have to climb Welsh roads. Oh my god. If you ever come to Britain, I will have to take you to Wales just to show you Welsh roads, because they are fucking terrifying. Going up the mountainous paths, oh my god. I've never driven in Wales. I've only ever been driven into Wales because I'm not confident enough. I've been driving for many, many years, and I still don't want to drive in Wales. Although everybody gets a crash course in Welsh when they first go into Wales, because they very conveniently put araf on the roads, which means slow. And they write slow underneath it. So everybody knows at least one Welsh word. And it's, slow down, you fuckers. Fuck off back to England, you turds. Pommy bastards. Alright, yeah. That was a tangent.
A very big one, yes.
Yeah.
Was there anything else we wanted to say on FlashSentry or this fic in particular?
I think we may have to wrap this up soon, because we've been talking for an insanely long time. This is going to be the longest podcast yet.
Well, I regret nothing.
I know.
I did have one more thing.
Go on, then.
What do you think about the second chapter of this story? Because slight spoilers, for those who haven't read the fic. Flash eventually comes back through the portal, and he is arrested by Shining Armor for going through the portal when he's not supposed to. And he knew he wasn't supposed to.
He knew he was going to be arrested.
Yes, he basically knew that he was going to lose everything by doing this. And so, while he's down in the dungeon during the second chapter, which is nowhere near as long as the first,
no,
he
it's
is
not.
visited.
It was like 10 minutes of reading, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it was
I
only
remember
like
looking at that on my MP3 and
1,500
thinking
words.
it was like, has this only half downloaded?
Yeah, it was only like 1,500 words compared to the first one, which was like closer to 8,000, I think.
But hang on, I've got that open in a window. I shall tell you.
Yeah.
I have become prepared.
But basically, in the second chapter.
5,747 words.
Okay. So yeah, that was a bit of an exaggeration on my part.
Just a smidge. Just a little.
Yeah. But the second chapter involves Cadence coming to visit him in his jail cell, where this is basically where everything is revealed. Why he did what he did, and Cadence just trying to get clarification as to why somebody she considers a friend would do something like this.
Because it is an act of treason, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, it was treated as such. And you could tell during the end of the first chapter that Shining Armor was incredibly disappointed in Flash.
He didn't want to do it. I do remember getting that feeling of he didn't want to have to arrest him, and he kept asking why he'd done it, and Flash wouldn't tell him.
Yeah.
I must admit, when I was listening to it and a pony came to visit him, I genuinely was expecting Twilight. And I don't know why, because when Cadence turned up, it made so much more sense. But a little bit of me was just thinking, I wonder if Twilight's going to come and speak to him. Because she knew human FlashSentry. So prior to the conversation with Cadence, which did make a lot of sense and really did help the second chapter, that one makes sense to me, of it being Twilight coming to see him.
Mm-hmm.
Cadence doesn't often get written as being wise, because she's not as old as Luna and Celestia, and she's clearly, because she was a teenager when Twilight was little, so she tends to get written as sort of, it's bizarre, her personality, that she is written one of two ways. Either she's a fun-loving 20-something who just is a newlywed and happily in love, or she's a sex-mad maniac. And I hadn't seen
much of that.
It turns up
there.
in comics all the friggin' time. It can be absolutely hilarious if it's written right, but I see it too much. But
Right.
I like the fact here that she didn't get either of those personalities. That she was allowed to sort of be quietly wise in her own way, because love is her domain, and she acknowledged that it's all love, not just romantic love, and love for a brother is something she can understand.
Yes.
So yeah, I liked the second chapter for that.
So did
even though
I.
it subverted my expectations.
Yeah. So I liked it very much too, and I'm usually the kind of person who hates it when a story will, an author will put up a second chapter that is much shorter than the first, specifically for the reason of explaining what happened. Like when I did the voice of Dr. Fossil for you,
Yes.
for the Lantern, I read through the first chapter, and then I go to the second one, which was just a very short blurb that was meant to give some sort of closure, when I thought the first chapter did the closure very well, that it wasn't necessary, but apparently the author felt that enough people weren't getting it that they put up that second chapter to clarify.
I literally last night, I recorded the narration for a fic called The East Field by Isla Inopamos, and it's a dark fic, and it's really, really dark, and it ends on a really chilling note, the first chapter. And then there's like 3 different endings, one of which is Pinky pretending the whole thing was just a story she told, which I hated. One of which, 2 of the others, were a good ending and a bad ending, apparently, where the author extended the narrative when it didn't need extending. So I'm refusing to go past the first chapter because I don't think the others are necessary. And I think that happens quite a lot with authors who feel like it's 2 reasons. They either put up a second chapter because they want some views, or they put up a second chapter because they're not confident in the way that they wrote the ending of the first one, even if the ending's really strong, and it sort of betrays a lack of confidence, a self-doubt in their own ability.
But that doesn't happen here. Like we said, it feels like this one was more planned out. It fit well with the first chapter, whereas, like we've pointed out with these other examples, it feels like the second chapters were written after the fact to either give explanation, or just because the author didn't have much confidence in the original ending, or in the case of the dark fic, you said, were written specifically to try and cover their asses for people who didn't like the first ending.
Yeah. You need to have courage of your convictions if you're going to write something.
Stand by what
You're
I can't
a
remember. That too, but yes, you should always stand by him, or behind him, preferably. But
use him as a human shield.
but you should always stand by whatever you do if you're going to do something creative. You can't be wishy-washy about something like that.
Yeah.
So look forward to my reading. So look forward to my reading of Rough in the Diamond, the fic that destroyed Twilight's library.
Oh god, that thing. Yes, I saw that on your read later list, and I think I was the one who told you that was the one that caused the big stink.
You did, yes, and
holy shit, that
just made me want to read it more. It is recorded, it is finished, and I am planning to put it up not this Saturday, because that's when the first chapter of the Freeport venture is going up, but probably the Saturday after.
I will say now that we're recording this on the 19th of March, because this is not going to get uploaded for a couple of weeks, at least. So, yeah, this nebulous point in the future that he has mentioned will actually be the, what, of March? Or of April?
Let's see. I can't date.
It's 4th of... Hang on, Saturdays. So it's not this Saturday.
No, it's going to be the Saturday after.
So it's 28th of March.
Yes.
So here we go, 28th of March, because this will probably be up way after that, and you will all have to go to his channel and listen to the thing that you fucking missed, you tardy bastards. I think we should probably leave it there on that note.
Yeah, or we're just going to keep going.
Yeah, tangent upon tangent upon tangent upon. FlashSentry's not so bad when he's written well.
Yes, please write him well. And if you're going to write Flashlight, for God's sake, give me a reason to believe that those two would actually get together.
Yeah, and if you're going to write first-person narration, make your character flawed. And not a fucking Mary Sue or Gary Stu. And don't write idealized children who call people angels. Are you listening, George Lucas? And with that we go. Say goodbye, Gombasa.
Goodbye, everybody.